Alright, what's up gang? Today we're going to be talking about live service in gaming, and this is something that's very important to me because I've been a gamer since I was about the age of 7, okay? I got an Xbox for the Christmas of whenever I was 7 years old, and I haven't looked back since. I love gaming, and I game all the time. I love playing games. I love buying the new games. I play a lot of old retro games in my videos, like I think I'm playing Mario Kart in this one right now, and just seeing this downward spiral more and more, that really seems like to me, it has a lot to do with live service in games. It's getting really frustrating. So back in the day, and I am kind of talking before my time because a lot of people say that the golden age of gaming is like 2009 to 2012, and I was born in 2009, so I'm kind of off by a few years, but either way, I think my points still stand, and that's that gaming back then just felt special. You bought a $60 game, and that was the game. You would be playing that for so long, you would probably get anywhere from like 100 to 500 hours out of a $60 game. That was the game. Your friends probably had it. You were playing it with everybody you knew. Whenever you got home from school or got home from work or did whatever, that'd be the game you were playing. You wouldn't really play anything else. That was your main game. And nowadays, you just don't get that. And I can really look at the COD franchise with this. I talked about this in my COD video about why I'm not buying MW3 Remake this year. Whether it was like a shooter game, a single player game, really any kind of game, those were the games. And this is because whenever games were introduced back then, it really wasn't a thing where you could like go on to the Xbox Live Microsoft store and buy the COD or buy the Forza or whatever game it could be. You would probably be going to a GameStop on launch day, waiting like a 2-hour line so that way you could pick up this new game for $60 that you pre-ordered 2 months before, and then that would be the game that you're playing on your 360 for the next 7 to 12 months. There was something exciting about every game coming out. It felt like this was something new, and every game felt more and more innovative. Like every game came out and you were just like, wow, this game is awesome. I can't wait to see what they do next. Gaming is getting so much better. This COD's so much better than it was last year. You guys have to get this. There was these giant communities over games that came out back then, and it's just something special, and I think that's why a lot of people look back and have nostalgia for old games, not necessarily because the games were the best ever. Like from a technical standpoint, MW2 is not better than MW3 Remake, but from like every other standpoint, from like gameplay and the community and just how that game felt to play, everything's better, which is why people probably look back on it with nostalgia. Something has changed since games came out back then, and a lot of that I think is due to live service. No, fuck, all of that is due to live service. So games were progressively getting worse from I'd say around 2013 to 2016 to 17, and it wasn't really because of this live service, or I don't really think it was even because of microtransactions, but it was more because it felt like the developers just settled. They knew that their game was gonna sell. I'm looking at the COD franchise a lot with this, but this also goes for a lot of other games, and it just felt like all the main AAA games that were coming out every year, they were just complacent with their games being mediocre. They didn't have to make a game that was going to revolutionize a genre of gaming. It was just, hey, we'll throw another COD on the shelves this November. It'll do well. And some of those were good. Like BO3 was a good game, but all the other advanced movement COD games were just absolutely terrible. I can look at a few other games that felt like it was just, they were good, but they weren't as good as they were. And this really got bad, I think, whenever Fortnite came out. Now, Fortnite, obviously, they had this model where the game was free to buy, but in the game, there was a ton of different microtransactions, a ton of collectibles and cosmetic items that you could spend your real life money on to get something cool in the game. Fortnite did popularize this, and I do blame them for making live service like ruin gaming, but to be fair, they did semi-copy this off of League of Legends. But the thing is that game is way more skill-based and a lot more underground and less mainstream than Fortnite ever was. Fortnite was the one that really brought it to the surface and showed this model, and since Fortnite did so well and made millions of dollars and is still probably like the biggest game that's ever come out, game developers saw this and they wanted that money. It's a lot easier for a game developer to push out this game that's free, that's about halfway done, just so that way they can sell the rest of the game to you with DLC, and they'll probably end up making a lot more money off of it too, because whenever a game's free, there's nothing stopping you from playing it. You can play it, and once you get into that game that's free, they know they have you, and that's whenever they can push microtransactions onto you, because they know you'll buy them. You already like the game. There was no $60 paywall to get into the game. And so then all these developers started following in Fortnite's footsteps with their microtransactions and the way that they structured their games, especially when it comes to like the marketing of them. Not just COD, but it felt like there was a lot of other like battle royales and just more and more genres that were coming to this. And I can even talk about Rocket League really quick, because Rocket League came out in about 2016, and that game was really, really big. But in around 2019, Epic Games, the creator of Fortnite, funny enough, bought Rocket League and completely switched that game's microtransaction model. Now, the microtransaction model in Rocket League wasn't great, Fortnite, it was loot boxes, and nobody likes loot boxes, but they changed it and basically just made the Fortnite model, but put it in Rocket League. And I'm talking about this because it just kind of shows how even these older games that came out and people really liked, they were now shifting to this model where it's now a free-to-play game that you can spend all this money on in-game because it's just so much more profitable. Obviously, COD started doing this more and more. They started to push item shops and all these different like weapon skins and different camos and all these different cosmetics that you could buy, and I really don't think that these kinds of cosmetics work unless it's a game like Fortnite. I can look at Overwatch for this. Overwatch has so many different characters in the game, and for each character there's all these different skins and there's all these different weapon charms, and so that kind of system where you buy a battle pass that gives you a set number of items, like specific items, it doesn't work because there's so many different characters that could be at play. Fortnite did this well because it's just you buying skins. You buy skins or emotes or anything like that, but there's not specific people that you play in the game. But that didn't matter. Everybody at this point was following in Fortnite's footsteps. And that brings us to where we are now. Starfield, I think, is a good example of this. Even though they don't have an insane microtransaction system, I think Starfield is still a really good demonstration of where we are now with gaming. And here's, I think, where we are. Games now come out either for free or for $70 instead of $60. They release the game whenever it's about halfway completed, just so that way they can get on shelves and, you know, ride this hype wave, and then they may or may not release the rest of the game at all, and if they do, there's a good chance they'll release it as DLC. There's probably also going to be a lot of cosmetic items that are locked behind a paywall that they could have just put in interesting challenges or game modes or seasonal events, stuff that actually adds content to the game, but instead they can make an extra $5 if you buy this weapon skin, so of course they're going to do that instead of, you know, wasting all the time and labor to put in all these different mechanics and seasons and all this different kind of stuff to be able to unlock this stuff. It's just easier for them to, you know, put in an item shop and make you pay $5 for it. And it really just shows this lack of effort from all these game developers. Back then, it felt like games were competing. They had to be good because whether they were or weren't, if you bought them, that was the game. You played that game whether it was good or bad, and that was it. They can't update a CD like that. The way that they can update something that's on like the Microsoft Store or like the PlayStation Store, they can't do that with CDs. So whenever they would put all this time into a game, they needed it to be good. But now they don't really need it to be good because people will still play it. They already got their trust back in 2010, so they'll just ride that wave all the way now until like 2023, and they'll still be buying these games whether they're good or not, and they know that, so why would they waste the time developing actually good and fun games whenever they could just push a shitty game that will make even more money? This is why for the most part I play single player games in my videos. I play a lot of like Nintendo stuff, a lot of stuff to do with Mario, a lot of retro stuff, because I really think that those games just have something special. Again, it had that sense where the game had to be good on release, because if it wasn't, it was just a shit game, and that really makes these games like just stand out, and they're a lot more appealing to me than a game like COD where I have to hope that I get good teammates, or I have to buy this season's battle pass and keep up with the lore of it and spend $70 every year for it. I'd just much rather throw on Mario Kart and play a few rounds of it. But yeah, I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, then you should go check out my video where I talked about Fortnite and why I don't really think there'll ever be a game as big or as popular as it ever again. But whether you go watch that video or not, I appreciate you for watching this one all the way through, so thank you. And thank you for the support on the 2 Mad video.